New year, no limits. At least that's what we hope for, right? This is Aryana Rollins, and you're listening to Mindful Manifesting. And we're going to dive into setting intentions that work for the new year and not resolutions or overarching big wishes that inside we know feel impossible. So glad you're here. Oh, by the way, I did a New Year's Day class called New Year No Limits on New Year's Day. You can get access to the replay completely free. I'll put the link in the show notes. Grab that. You've got until, I think, February 14th to watch it, and then it will come down. All right, let's talk. I want to go into a little bit about what prevents change, because we do want to create a brand new up-leveled life, right? Either in ourselves, we want to make changes, or we want to improve our business, we want to improve our relationship or get into a relationship. It's like what happens when New Year's Eve happens and then we wake up on New Year's Day. We have this magical thinking, and there's nothing wrong with tuning into possibilities and infinite, possible outcomes. But we need a way to ground that magical thinking into practicality if we're going to make changes. All right, I'm excited about this class because, or this podcast class, I remember I was just taught that about a week ago, the New Year No Limits, New Year's Resolution Rescue, because I think the kinder we are on ourselves at the beginning of the year is going to bode well for a successful year, whatever that looks like for you. The harder we are on ourselves, the harder we are on others. It negatively impacts our relationships. It negatively impacts our sleep, our overall health. So how about we be kind and gentle to ourselves this year, 2025? What if we take that as a practice? And one of the ways we do it is not to overintend. Okay, so let's talk about what prevents change, because we do want those outcomes. Well, a lot of it's momentum. I was writing a section in my upcoming book, which has a working title, which I won't share just yet because it's working, it's not finalized, is if we look at what happened with the Titanic, there were workers on board alert that, hey, we are headed straight into an iceberg. So they got the captain up and everybody was all hands on deck to avoid the iceberg. And we know what happened. Why could they not avoid the iceberg? Why couldn't they change course? Because of momentum, my friends. So one of the things why I like focusing on this in January, we don't have momentum in the year yet. We don't have 3 months of disappointments. We don't have 6 months of quote unquote failure to change. We believe anything's possible. And I think that's actually a good attitude. I don't want to squash that in you. But what prevents change besides momentum? We've always done that. Well, it's because we don't have access to the operating system. New Year's resolutions and most goal setting and planning, I will tell you, doesn't allow you access to the operating system, that momentum, that thing that allowed this amazing ship to crash right into an iceberg where they had time to turn away, but they did not have the power and capacity to overturn the momentum of the speed of that ship. Would you like to learn how to overcome or actually slow down the momentum of the habits that you lead and you go through your life with? We're going to be talking about that and so much more in this podcast. Okay, so if you have a change you want to make, there's a part of your brain, and it's commonly, a common term now. It wasn't when I was first talking about it. The Reticular Activating System. So it's a part of your brain that will put filters up so you don't pay attention to non-important items, non-important things, so that you can stay on track. Well, if you have set an intention or a goal this year to, let's say, grow your income, and you want to double your income this year. You've had double your income years before, but maybe last year was a little bit light and you didn't get it. So you're saying, I'm shifting that this year. I am all behind doubling my income this year. Okay. Well, if you don't have a way to communicate to the part of you that does the doing, your body as the storehouse of your unconscious mind does the doing. It drives the car, it makes your cup of tea, it walks the dog, it does the dishes, it cooks your food. Your brain does not have to figure out how to do that every single day and learn it from scratch. That's obvious, right? You've got a habit. You've got momentum around that habit to be able to do it efficiently, effectively, and thank goodness for that. Imagine having to learn that every morning when you wake up. Oh, that would be really awful. Okay, so your reticular activating system, it will point you in the direction and allow you to focus on what's in front of you if it's important to it. If you either programmed it, it's really important to wake up when your newborn's crying. It's not important to listen to a plane going overhead. So your reticular activating system, for the most part, is not programmed consciously. We have a way in the highest potential program to program it consciously. Pretty rare, pretty unique. And that means whatever your biggest priority is, your biggest goal, your biggest intention, it will pay attention to that and direct you naturally and unerringly towards the outcome that you want. Okay. So a reticular activating system is going to pay attention to what you've told it to pay attention to. But again, most people don't have access to consciously programming it. So it pays attention to what you've always paid attention to. So it could be, let's say you want to double your income. You're going to be looking at the number of clients you have. You're going to be looking at maybe anticipated income. And you're going to be looking at your bank account, what's in your bank account. You're going to be looking at projected bills. And all of a sudden, you're now on hyper alert. You're in a survival mode. And you're not in planning, projection, and possibility. You're looking at and feeling this is impossible. So your reticular activating system is going to pay attention to those metrics. And those metrics aren't going to give you positive feedback. They're going to give you, quote unquote, reality. And this is where I might stretch a little bit because the reality is good. Okay, feedbacks are good. But if you're wanting to make a shift, like double your income, you need a different kind of feedback loop. Would you agree? Looking at the bank account, looking at the number of clients, looking at your projected expenses, looking at your last year income, and now you're about to do your taxes and get in a really sucky mood. Is that going to inspire you to make changes? No, it's going to be fire alarm alert. And fire alarm alert, when your body, as the storehouse of your unconscious mind, goes into that survival state, it's going to shut down that creative mechanism, your prefrontal cortex, that part of you that's into possibility, that's into change, not the programmed part of your body. Okay. So hopefully that makes a little more sense. I go into this a lot more detail in the class. Again, you can get free access to New Year No Limits Resolution Rescue. I'll put the link in the show notes, and I suggest you grab it. There's a whole free guide that comes with it, which is so good. I've been doing it for the past 15 years. And what's fantastic is that, well, I'll tell you a little bit about the class, and then we'll get back to the podcast. So what's fantastic is that you find a way to actually honor, celebrate, and recognize the growth from your prior year. And sometimes for those of us who are more overachievers, we look at like, that wasn't important. I didn't achieve the big one. That's meaningless. But what happens is you're giving negative feedback to that part of you, your body, your servant, to help you get things done, like you didn't do enough. That's not what I wanted. And we don't acknowledge the small things. So there's an exercise to actually anchor your wins in your unconscious mind in a way so it hears you. Think about it like this. You're a boss and you've got multiple employees in your department, and all you're doing is focusing on what the employees haven't done, how they're not turning up, they're not delivering, they're not performing. Do you think that's going to inspire the employees or your body to do better? No. Encouragement does. We know this. If you ever lived with a 2-year-old, they thrive on encouragement. Guess what? Your body or your unconscious mind thrives on encouragement. So you'll celebrate your big and small wins, your victories, your learnings. And then, what I think is pretty unique to this class, I've not seen other people do it, is that it's a really powerful way to review your prior year and notice the things you didn't accomplish. Yes, of course, we know that. But actually to let go of them. To let go of the things incomplete, the carryovers from 2024. Because if you don't, it's like having 100 tabs open on your computer. You don't have the resources, you don't have the focus, you don't have the energy to be able to follow through on what you want to do this year. It's like a computer is open tab. It's like pending, pending, pending. Your unconscious mind works very similarly to that. It will keep bringing to your awareness, oh, you didn't finish that. You didn't finish that project. Well, it may no longer be relevant to you, but do you have a way to communicate that and let it go? You can learn about that in the class. It's a very specific technique that I've devised that can help you let go of the irrelevant, what's no longer what you don't want to carry forward. So you release those projects, release those intentions, and let it go. And then recognizing what you did well. Go back to that 2-year-old, loves positive feedback, loves encouragement. Are there certain habits you put in place, certain support that you did that's really helping and it's serving you? I mean, it could be that you start winding down your evening at 8:30. Maybe you take a shower, maybe you do a little meditation, maybe you just shut off all electronics and you just chill for a few minutes before you try to go to sleep. Maybe that's serving you. Maybe there are certain podcasts that inspire and uplift and make a shift. Maybe that's serving you. So looking at what's serving you, or are there new habits you would benefit by putting in place? So we go into the detail there. It's very helpful. And then you'll notice we did all this prepping rather than jumping immediately where most of us want to, is what do we want to spend this year on? We've got 365 days. Well, by the time this podcast comes through, it's by, I don't know, maybe 359 days. Blank slate. We've got all this time. And what would we want to accomplish? What do we want to be celebrating at the end of 2025? And so once you've done all that preparatory work, you're in a higher vibration state. That's when you set your intentions, your desires, and then you prioritize them. And then we'll talk about picking your top 3 and how to get support from your unconscious mind. Remember that reticular activating system I talked about when we started the podcast, where I said that unless you have a way to communicate what's most important to you, it's going to do business as usual, even if it means running into an iceberg. So there's a way to communicate to your unconscious mind in your body, this is what you want, and asking for its support. Doing so in ways for the highest good of you and of all involved. So that's just a real quick overview of the New Year No Limits. So let's talk about, I'm going to give you something to take away from this podcast. And to start to witness when you're being hard on yourself. Start to notice the mean words you say to yourself, like, I should already know this. Shouldn't I? I mean, why am I doing this in the same way? Why am I having a cup of coffee at 5 p.m. and I know it affects my sleep? Instead, flip that around. How can I resist coffee at 5 p.m.? When's the last time I should have a cup of coffee? You're going to switch on that prefrontal cortex because it's a problem solver for you, my friends, when you ask the right question. So don't beat yourself up. Get better solutions. Another one is like, gosh, why am I waking up at 7:30 every morning? I need to be up by 6 to have my best miracle morning yet. Instead of that, it's a negative question. Why? I'm beating myself up. How? How could I wake up easily and effortlessly at 6 a.m.? Then I can meditate, walk the dog, exercise before my first client. How can I do that? Well, obvious, you could set an alarm. But I mean, that's a silly example, okay? But do you feel the difference? You're in problem-solving mode. You're not in beat-yourself-up mode. You will not get a good answer, really, when you say, why can't I get up at 6 a.m.? I used to be able to before it got into the winter time. Why? I just need to sleep. And then now you're in the dumps and despair. So, hope you enjoyed this podcast. Join the New Year No Limits, or not join it because we've already done that. We're not on New Year's Day anymore, but request the replay. It's completely free. And hopefully you'll join us next year in the live class. It is so good and so empowering, but from a different place of not just that dopamine hit we get when we set plans and intentions and we get all excited about the New Year's, but actually from a very grounded, practical, and inspirational place. Thanks so much, Living. So much for listening. Thank you for living too, because you wouldn't be listening. And as we wrap up, remember, as you confirm yourself, you chart your own path to success. So much love and Happy New Year, my friends.